times with the whole COVID-19 situation. I mean, as a player, how have you basically found your situation during the COVID-19?
It's been tough for all the players, I guess. But to be fair, there wasn't much of the season left anyways. For example, the Cape Cobras only had 2 games left because we'd been knocked out of the one-day competition. So we only had about 3 weeks left of the season, which was sorted because the domestic T20 competition in the previous season. So I think I've obviously been checking a lot online. A lot of the players are learning how to cook, some of them improving their cooking skills. A lot of guys are doing home gym. I also think this is a good time to do a lot of self-reflection. If you had a bad or a good season, I think there's a lot of time now to think about your game, think about where you want to be or what you want to do next season as a player. And obviously, we don't know how long this COVID-19 is going to last. So, but for a lot of cricket, playing without having a pre-season is a dream. So that could happen this season.
So speaking of plans, I mean, have you started jotting down? Do you have like a diary for yourself there?
I actually had a chat with my coach and assistant coach this week, and we obviously started talking about next season. The Cape Cobras are, I think Six might know, we lost about 10 or 11 players last season. So
and some youngsters most recently, actually.
Yeah, so we've obviously now, I don't know, it's rebuilding again, because now you got to make new relationships with new players that weren't here, because we got quite a few players from other unions. Yeah. So hopefully we gel together well, and next season goes a lot better than this season went, because we came last in all competitions. So it's a good time for change.
Yeah, I want to go on to Six right now. Six, this is for you guys. I mean, this is a different aspect. I mean, the COVID-19 brings a different element for you guys. I mean, you in the broadcasting industry, you broadcasting for SABC, you've written a couple of articles. For you, how has it been so far? I mean, there's no sport, there's no cricket. All you depend on is headline news.
This is what I'm depending on, mate. I've found my books other than my sports books. I've had to now, honestly speaking, afternoon, gentlemen, and afternoon to everyone who's watching. Phila, I've had to scrap around in looking for something that's completely different from sport, because I'm using this period just to reboot, restart. Personally, for me, it was a long summer for South African cricket, an eye-opening summer. As a young journalist, that I wanted to be part of. You want to be part of these sort of situations. Yes, you don't want them to happen. Split. You don't want there to be any issues with your governing bodies, with any sporting codes. Yeah. But for me, it was a young journalist to be there from the start. I was there when Thabang Moere was entrusted with Cricket South Africa. Where at the time it was on its knees in terms of... Wait.
Don't get into it.
I'm not stretching, but like I'm saying, it was a summer for me that really was quite enjoyable, on and off some chapters being closed in international cricket, like for the likes of Vernon Philander, which for me was quite a nice way to end what was a topsy-turvy.
Fanatics, you guys are trying to come up with online ways to keep afloat. How has it been for you guys? I mean, down there with
joined them very, very recently. But Khaled's doing a great job there. He's got, I don't know if you've caught any of the lockdown series he's done. He's had quite a few guests on, and I mean, as fans, it's very frustrating when you don't have your cricket or your rugby to look forward to on the weekend. So at least we can give them half an hour with some of their favorite players. And
I see that you do quite a lot of these, what is it called? These polls, if I may call them that, on your Twitter timeline. How is that coming along?
There's nothing like a Twitter poll to start a bit of friction on Twitter. I mean, things are getting a bit quiet. Things are getting a bit quiet. So you just have to spice it up here and there.
No, fair. All right, gentlemen. Six, I want to bring in you here now. You speak about turmoil, you speak about uncertain times within the South African aspect where cricket is concerned. I mean, we've got a new CEO, we've got a new coach, we have a director of cricket, something we haven't had, if my memory serves me correct. I mean, will all these people bring about the change that Cricket South Africa requires?
Hopefully they do, because I've never seen Cricket South Africa on its knees like it was and still is, because they're not out of the woods yet. You know, for me, you look at the team at the time, it almost needed an identity as a whole, Cricket South Africa. And you look at Faf du Plessis, the captain that he was more than just the captain on the field. He came in at a time where captaincy was an issue for Cricket South Africa. Hashim Amla, AB de Villiers, JP Dumini also throwing his hand up in captaincy conversations. But what he did, Faf du Plessis, was able to take the team, take Cricket South Africa together and move them along. But, you can only move so far, and then the cracks start opening up. And eventually those cracks started opening up with, the excitement of all these countries in getting into these T20 global T20 tournaments, which was always going to be a challenge for South Africa. And that's where it started for me. Yes, we go back to the 2015 Cricket World Cup semi-final with the selection of Vernon Philander, which for me was the starting block to where we are today. But you look at the T20 tournaments that all these countries are interested in, and in particular South Africa, we've got a unique challenge. We've got issues within our structures in terms of ongoing conversations about which our view, I'm sure we'll also touch on, in terms of how many teams, franchise teams should we have, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes,
and the T20 Global League came with that excitement. It came with an opportunity to see some of the young talent that we have in the country, the rookies, et cetera, et cetera. And then it quickly frizzled off, the T20 Global League, which meant Cricket South Africa needed to restart and rethink and change structures, which they did. And it was a big task. But exciting times for everyone, because, again, we had moved on from the Jared Majola and the Mtutu saga, which the inquiry found and resolved, and we moved forward from it. And, it was exciting for me to see at the helm again Black Africans being entrusted to lead such an organization like Cricket South Africa. And lots of questions were raised, even from my point of view, et cetera, et cetera. And quite rightly so, which were warranted. And, we gave him time, as like we should give anyone. Give him time, and give him time. And the more time you got, the bigger the hole became. And eventually,
he's still suspended. He's not fired. It's not been confirmed. So is there a possibility of us seeing him coming back again? Tabang Muru, that is.
I think from a cricketing South Africa product point of view, they would need to move on from a Tabang Muru point of view. Going back to your then initial point, are the current guys in place now the right guys? Like I said, identity was needed for South Africa to try and lure sponsors. We need to speak realistic things now, like sponsorships, broadcasting rights, and conversations that Graham Smith will now have with your Indians, your Australians, your English, your New Zealanders, because he's a known figure. He walks into a room and people want to listen to him. And so for Cricket South Africa, it's the time now to ride on that, to ride on Mark Boucher being the captain of the national side, which will lure in more sponsors. And then hopefully they can rebuild Cricket South Africa as a brand.
Yeah. AV, I want to bring you here.
Yes.
As a player, did this have any impact on you guys personally? This whole commotion, actually, did it have any impact on you guys as players in the domestic leagues?
I don't think it had much of an impact to domestic players, because you pretty much do whatever our CSA wants you to do. Really, they set out the fixtures, they tell you what to do, so you can't really be affected much by what they say. You just got to play, I guess. Another thing that Six was but we're gonna talk about Kolpak later, so let me just hold on that.
Dan, are we drowning as CSA? Are we drowning?
Yeah, man, I think Six has hit the nail on the head there. For me, though, the sort of management changes that have taken place it's like, it's step one of a much bigger plan that needs to sort of unfold. And I think I think it's actually been coming for quite a long time. I think South African cricket has very deep sort of structural issues, logistical issues. And I think a few years ago, or let's call it 5 to 10 years ago, that was masked by the fact that we had 6 or 7 world-class cricketers all peaking at the exact same time. We had a strong South African side, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Cricket South Africa is in a healthy position. We had 7 good cricketers, world-class cricketers. And, I think what we're seeing now is just years and years of not addressing an issue that's been unfolding for the last, 10, 15 years, however long you want to call it,
So now, guys, we talk about drowning, I talk about turmoil. The reason why these guys are actually at the helm currently, we saw Kevin Peterson sharing his views on what our coaching structure should look like, what our board structure when it comes to CEOs and directors of rugby, but things have turned out to be exactly how we panned them out to be on social media. What influence does a Kevin Peterson have over Cricket South Africa that what he says on Twitter basically turns out to be exactly that currently, 6?
Look, his phone should have been confiscated years ago, shouldn't it? But, it's a comment. At the end of the day, you want these sort of comments coming from former players, and you can't say it's right or wrong. There's never a right or wrong opinion when it comes to sport, and we need to welcome any sort of comment that comes from the likes of Kevin Peterson.
Does he have influence? Does he have the inner?
He's got influence. He's influenced Test cricket to what it is today. 2005 Ashes, he was reverse sweeping things we had never seen. You can't ignore that he's an influential person, Kevin Peterson. But do the bodies and the boards around the globe listen to him? I don't know. But going back to the point that you touched on, I think we need to go back to, and I hate going back to the 70s and the 80s. What strengthens Cricket South Africa? So we were excluded from international cricket. But what Cricket South Africa benefited from that, and what was regarded highly around the globe, was our domestic structure. Because international players wanted to come play in South Africa, and the standard of our first class cricket was at its highest. Comparing to that of Australia and England at the time. So in what Dan is saying, over the years, we've backed away and shied away from looking at the structures. South African cricket structures going down. We always talk about grassroots, and you go to all these breakfasts and you listen to all sorts of indabas. But the issue still remains that there's still structural changes that still need to be done. And I think we're just sugarcoating it half the time by always going to the transformation. We need to transform this. We still need to transform our structures within cricket so that issues like Kolpak, when you do raise them, they do spark a conversation. And I'm not just saying Kolpak, Phila, and I'm not just saying Kolpak. I'm saying structures within South Africa, like Dan said, have always been an issue. And when things, like issues in the boardroom start coming out and we're seeing them evidently, then the cracks start opening beneath as well.
Yeah, I see this Kolpak word keeps popping up with everyone's response. We might as well get into it, guys. Dan, I want to start off with you. I mean, Graham Smith has said that he will, Cricket South Africa will accept guys coming back. We know now with the whole Brexit issue currently happening, Kolpak will probably subside or probably move away, and probably some cricketers will probably have the opportunity to go play over that side. I mean, what are your thoughts in terms of having those players coming back to South Africa, coming back into the domestic fold?
Yeah, look, I think just to start off with, I think there's this massive misconception, not with you necessarily, but sort of from cricket fans as a whole, that we're going to have 30 cricketers, world-class cricketers coming back to South Africa, and they're all going to start knocking on the door for the Proteas. And I think it's going to be, in my honest opinion, a bit of an anticlimax. I think, a couple of players will come back. the likes of Morne Morkel, Philander, those kind of oaks, they're not going to come back.
Yeah.
There's a lot of opportunities are arising. We've just seen Dane Pitt. He's gone off to the States. Cricket's evolving. I can't see a lot of these guys coming back to South African cricket. I mean, if you look at all the names that everybody's talking about, like your Abbotts, your Stian van Zyl, those kind of players, they're in their 30s, man. It's they've only got a couple of years left. I can't see
careful Dan.
Yes. I like that point. I like the point where you raise age, because cricketers are known to play beyond 35, but now I want to bring Aviwe into this one. Having you as a player at the Cobras currently, I mean, do you think it's a good thing to have that competition coming down, and now you basically have to box it out for positions in the team?
At the end of the day, when you play sports, you compete against people, and that's the biggest thing about sports. You want to compete, so competition is good for Cricket South Africa, I think. As Dan says, these guys are old, but if you look at Stian, he's 33, 34. But that's not old enough. That's not too old. As a batsman, he can play until he's 38 if he wants to. So it'll definitely strengthen our domestic competition. But I would like to see maybe Cricket South Africa add 2 more teams. As I said, competition is good, but now a lot of guys have gotten to the level where they're good enough to play franchise cricket, and 6 teams, to be honest, is not enough for.
It's not.
However many people play cricket in South Africa. If you look at England, they have 18 teams with a lot less people than us. But talking about Kolpak, whatever reason the guys see to go overseas, I mean, Cricket South Africa can't contract everyone that plays for the Proteas. So you can't really come hard or blame the guys for leaving and wanting to earn more money for their families. So now with Kolpak's done, there's nothing wrong with them coming back and trying to compete to play for their country again, if they're young enough, if that's the right word.
100%. 6, AV speaks about you can't have 6 teams. How many teams would you guys like to see, or how many teams would you like added onto our domestic competition currently?
Look, that all is dependent on the coffers that Cricket South Africa has. Because 100%. At the end of the day, they'll have to fit the bill. They'll have to, help out unions here and there, etc., like they have been with the Mzansi Super League, which is proving very costly. But from obviously a talent point of view and from a pundit's point of view, I want to see more cricketers playing. I want to see more cricket. I want to see more franchise cricket. I want to see more first-class cricket, more club cricket, more school cricket, etc., so that the pool is increased, so that we know we've got about 20 teams to pick 4 players of opening batters.
Yeah,
that's the issue now in South Africa. You look at the 6 the pool is too small. You look at the 6 franchise teams. You look at the openers, and you look at the amount of runs they've scored, the meaningful runs they scored, the innings they sort of played, second innings contributions, third innings contributions, etc. Across the 6 teams, you find that it's not too much. It literally isn't too much. And so from a Kolpak point of view or the players returning, it certainly brings, from my point of view, excitement in terms of competitiveness with some of the local guys who want to match up to the guys who've spent a couple of years abroad. I mean, for me personally, taking off my pundit hat and my broadcasting hat, it still hurts that Riley Rousseau left. For me at the time, he was the closest thing to what we had in the side in AB de Villiers. He played shots that were out of this world, And for me, he was going to be key for South Africa going to 2019 Cricket World Cup. However, it didn't happen, and we can't fault the guys. And I was at that press conference when he came out, and you couldn't blame them. You couldn't fault them. The stakes were too high. They were securing their futures and families, etc. But where we are today is, for me, I want more players playing more cricket. Obviously, that is dependent on broadcasting. Cricket South Africa needs to work on that, because that's where you're making money these days in terms of cricket, broadcasting deals, where you're selling. And from their point of view, they'll need to target Asia. And because we know how the viewership is in Asia, looking at the IPL numbers. So that's another aspect they'll need to look into to try get more money into their coffers to try and extend the number of teams we have in our franchise system.
But if I'm a broadcaster, I don't see I don't see bums on seats. There's no one saying anything. That's not
you and Dom as the broadcaster.
I understand. But I mean, what
you want is a broadcaster, right?
You do, Six. I'm not disagreeing.
I want people sitting at home. That's why broadcasters are fighting with stadium management. Stadium management want them at the stadium, and the broadcasters.
But why aren't we getting people to the stadium? Why aren't we getting bums on seats? Aviwe, you want to jump in here?
If I can jump in, I think the product that CSA is not attractive enough to the audience at the moment.
It's not sexy.
For the normal human being, they don't just want to see what's happening between bat and ball. There should be more things attracting them to come to the ground, and we are not doing that. We're not. I'm pretty sure in other countries, in England, for example, they must be doing something right if it's always full there in county cricket. In India, they're cricket mad, but they must be doing something right. So we've got to find what will bring the people to the ground. And I know it's important. Like as a player, you don't enjoy playing when the stadium is empty, but you just got to make your own intensity and your own vibe on the ground, I guess.
Yeah, 100%.
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
Kindly. Let's go to conversations, Phila. Let's go to conversations of rise, conversations at parties when it comes to sport in general. And I feel that there's still a great sense of nostalgia when it comes to sport. People still talking about events that happened in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s, to the point where the other day I came across a tweet, someone saying, how come I never see Makai and Tini popping up in all of these comparisons, etc., etc. I know I may sound like I'm drifting, but the point I'm getting to is what is it that in Cricket South Africa we want in 2020? What is it that we want in going forward? We may look into what India is doing. We may look into what Cricket Australia. I mean, I forgot Amafio. I forgot his name. Amafio. I'll try to figure out his surname. But he was the head of the BBL. And he came down to South Africa a couple of years ago to the Discovery Sports Indaba Summit. And we had a one-on-one. And I was just asking him about the BBL and its model and how they are able to, in such a short time, get those numbers. 90,000 people to come and watch a T20 match. That's ridiculous. That's numbers you only get in India. But they were able to get those numbers. So what is it? And for the greater part of the past decade, Cricket South Africa was working tirelessly in trying to get bums on seats. And I know this because I work I work closely with some of the people there who are in charge of such things, and they don't sleep because they're trying to get people inside the stadium. And Aviwe, trust me, it's not about what happens in between. It's not about what happens in between the overs and the fireworks and the dancing ladies and the cars and etc. etc. It's the conversations. South Africans don't feel involved in cricket or in rugby and soccer conversations because once we get into those conversations, we go 30 years back. I start talking about Justin Palfreman. I start talking about the likes of Kirsten. I start talking about the likes of Pollocks, and people who are new to the game shy away. And we are dependent on those new followers because they are the ones who are still fresh and excited, who are still keen on coming to the stadiums. And I then said to them, guys, every time there's a game, and maybe I'm just, letting out my context here, but I said, give me 3 tickets. I want to prove you something. Every time there's a match with the Wanderers, give me 3 tickets. I'm going to take someone new for the first time to the game and see if they'll come back again. And I swear, Phila, all the times that I've done that, given someone 3 tickets, they've come the first time free. The second time, they're willing to buy. Some are willing to buy season tickets because you involve them in conversations. And hence now Twitter and Dan's polls come into effect because now people feel like they are part of the conversation instead of listening to Kevin Peterson, David Lloyd, and Bomelelo Mbangwa and Sotyelelwa and think that's the word and that's the gospel. No, people must be involved in conversations.
Stadiums must give free tickets at some point.
AV, everything that I said, eh?
I'm playing.
Yeah. No, 6. I mean, you make valid points, mate. You make very, very valid points.
We can't be talking about, yes, the history books have been put there. You know, there's great work done by all sorts of. I've got all sorts of books here, but there's history has been narrated and written down. But I think right now, I mean, when we even talked 15 years ago, no one talks Makaya. No one talks Astro Prince. Those are people who, you know, inspired youngsters to change from right-handed to left-handed, I'm one of them, etc., etc. So the conversations that we're having really need to be inclusive, and we really need to start looking at players who just retired and players who were just here now.
But now, are the current players as sexy, the word you use, as sexy and attractive to young players out there? Are they showstoppers? Are they
Mzansi Super League? There's two seasons we've had now of Mzansi Super League.
Yes, we have.
From a broadcaster's point of view, me personally, the talent that we've been reminded of that we have in this country, B, the talent that we have in the country. You look at Akona Mnyaka, you look at Eshile, you look at maybe I'm forgetting some youngsters and some rookie players at the top of my head. Now they're playing against the likes of your Chris Gales. They're bowling to your Dan Christians. Essentially, that's what Cricket South Africa has. And we won't have a sexy model until we have a packed stadium. But in terms of playing and the level of cricket, I've seen T20 tournaments around the world, Phila, and the Mzansi Super League is high up there in terms of quality, players, the matches, but it's still yet to be a product that still needs to be sold to cricket, to South African fans.
I want to ask, guys, are we conservative as a country in terms of interactiveness on our social platforms? Do we get an Aviwe and Mgijima talking to cricket fans? Do we get a Kagiso Rabada talking to cricket fans? Do we get the Themba Bavuma chatting up with cricket fans? I mean, those type of things we see overseas. We don't see those things over here. You'll see LeBron James having a chat with a normal supporter. I understand the negativity that might come through with such things, putting yourself out there as a sportsman. But there's other ways to generate people to come to the stadiums, right? It can't just be us talking about Omar Kayantini or Sean Pollock, etc. But there's other ways to attract young fans and and new fans rather, right, onto the stadium. Do we have those channels available to the players?
Phila, we know cricket and sport and supporting a team is an influence. It starts at a very young age. It requires the mother and the father to buy a kid their favorite top at age 7, age 8, and every Saturday you make sure the kid is sitting next to you, and the kid then grows, etc., going forward. So, if in townships, and I speak of a township that I grew up in Tanzania, if Saturdays and Sundays kids aren't walking around the block and seeing cricket being played, club cricket being played, they're not going to be influenced. Why? Because they're not seeing themselves as accessible to that cricket that everybody's been playing. They can't step inside that mini club or the stadium and just walk in and sit down and watch cricket and try and understand this cricket. The only time they get to see cricket is when it's playing on SABC 3. So that on its own needs a look at. And I voiced this out, and it might be a different code in being asked after picking up the Rugby World Cup. What would you like seeing going forward, Six? What would you like seeing going forward? Cricket at Township is not being played on Wednesdays. Cricket in Townships is not being played on Saturdays. Cricket in Townships is not being played on Sundays. So it's not going to help having a momentum Kasi challenge in Tanzania and ship in kids from the surrounding schools and have a packed stadium and think you know, Bob's uncle. It's not going to happen like that. It's not going to happen like that.
Don't shy away, mate.
Yeah, please, guys, get in. They need to see role models within the township, within the neighborhood, playing club cricket. And I feel that was the biggest influence in the 60s and the 70s. When you speak to the likes of your Hussein Manaks, they talk about their brothers, their uncles, their fathers going to club cricket and playing club cricket, and they wanting to be there. And if you're not having that, trying to influence the residents of Tanzania to come and fill up Buffalo Park for every Mzansi Super League match, because it's not going to happen.
I agree there, man. But if I asked you, Six, what is the difference? Why does Ram Slam get zero attendance and MSL was able to, pull in decent crowds? What's the one factor there?
Money. The money put into Mzansi Super League is far bigger than the Ram Slam. So the Ram Slam was a model that Cricket South Africa has as a T20 tournament. And so then Ram Slam will just buy the title sponsor, and that's it. But with the Mzansi Super League, you've got now these marquee players, you've got your international buyers coming in and buying.
Exactly, and that's my point. The difference between Ram Slam and MSL is the quality of the cricket. Do you agree?
Yeah.
International players are playing MSL. International players aren't playing local cricket.
Yeah.
Now, why is the likes of Rabada not putting in a few 4-day games or a few momentum 1-day games?
Because it's the Indians.
If you think about exactly. If you think about years ago, I used to watch Dale Steyn bowl to Graham Smith, and Herschel Gibbs was at the non-strikers end. Next in was Duminy. Next in was Jacques Callis. You had South Africans competing against one another, and the level of the domestic cricket was a lot better. It was. The quality of the cricket, of the local cricket, was a lot better because you had your international players playing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And just to go back to a point you made earlier, this sort of leads on to that. Now, you mentioned that you wanted more franchise teams.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree that having, I think you mentioned 2 extra franchise sides, does that not dilute the talent in South Africa?
Mm-hmm.
So now, if we've just made the argument that the quality of the cricket is what attracts fans, but you want to add franchise sides, which in my opinion dilutes quality. In my opinion, the overall quality of our local cricket would go down with 2 extra sides. How does that address the bum on seats issue?
So, Dan, I hear your question. You're saying that having more teams kind of weakens the whole franchise system. So I think this would have been the perfect time for Cricket South Africa to do this, to have 8 teams, because everyone, when it came to the end of this season, was out of contract. Every single player in South Africa was out of contract. So there was an opportunity now for Cricket South Africa to equally spread the Protea players to 8 teams, give all the teams equal budget. Obviously, the teams are going to buy the top players. The top players in each franchise are going to want to earn the most. So they will go to those different teams. And then, obviously, the youngsters, there's no better way for the youngsters to learn from those Proteas and those top players
100%.
that are coming to those franchises. So I think we've just missed the boat now, because now, obviously, players have been contracted now. So we'll probably have to wait for another window where everyone is out of contract, where we can, as Cricket South Africa, add those 2 other teams that I would like to see added. I don't know if that's a good enough answer for you, Dan, but that's how I feel.
Can I respond to that? Obviously, yes. You're the right guy to ask. Just using an example now from this recent English series, right?
Yeah.
Hamza is a guy you play with, obviously, quite regularly, and he's absolutely dominated local cricket. I mean, the guy's a flipping run machine, right? Now, this is my issue at the moment with South African cricket. Our batsmen do not face test bowlers until they play test cricket, in my opinion. If you look at English domestic cricketers right now, they are facing Morne Morkel, Vernon Philander, Carl Abbott. They're facing world-class test bowlers before they get to test cricket. So now you have... Sorry, if I could just carry on. You have Hamza, who dominates local cricket. Absolutely, run machine. And then comes into test cricket and suddenly has these massive technical, flaws, which we hadn't seen. We hadn't seen them for the few years before. It was like he was playing, two different sports all of a sudden. And I think going into the 8-team franchise system, do we have, you want each side to have, 4 quality bowlers bowling to your batsmen. If we have 8 sides, do we have 32 quality test level type bowlers to fill those bowling slots in 8 teams? In my opinion, right now we don't. I don't think we do.
You're right, yeah.
I'm sure you disagree.
No, you're right.
Highly.
Six is burning. Six is burning.
Yeah,
I can see.
so
He
much
wasn't happy with that
fire.
one. Wasn't happy.
Yeah, look, Dan. Going back to the point I made earlier on about first-class cricket in South Africa in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, and what made it so rich is that our batters were facing, high-quality bowlers who were from the West Indies, from Australia, from West Indies, around the globe, and applying their trade in South Africa. And then, in turn, it meant that South African first-class cricket was at its paramount, which sort of aided South Africa to hit the ground running once they were brought back into international cricket. Hence, they had success, a bit of success. Once they were readmitted, it was because they were still playing quality players, facing quality bowlers, and the bowlers were bowling in quality bats. You come back now, and the issue that we started with in terms of Kolpak and what it means now for Cricket South Africa with all these players coming back. Well, it means exactly that. It means now Riley Rousseau will come back with all his experience, and the likes of now Tando Ntini, Akona Mnyakas, I forget Charles Kutsias of this world, would then get to now bowl at the likes of Riley Rousseau, who's traveled around the globe and played in all sorts of conditions. Because what happened to me, and which was, I was in commentary with Nono during the time, and Sam Curran was picking up wickets. And the ball wasn't even moving in Centurion. And the point he made was that 6. How many left arm quicks do we have in first class cricket? That didn't matter. Dom Bass came and he was troubling our batters. Dom Bass wasn't even turning it. He probably wouldn't even turn it. I don't want to mention it, but he wasn't turning it. But our batters couldn't face him. And so that's where increasing the number of players, and perhaps for Cricket South Africa, then look into, I don't know if they will be able to fit the bill of bringing in the likes of English players, Australian players to come and play in South Africa. But if we've got players who've played in those county championships, the Sheffield leagues, etc., bring them back in. Even if they're coaching, even if they're playing 3-day series, etc., so that our batters can face the experience. There's no point in having all this experience and not using it.
All right,
agree,
guys.
Can I do a quick response there, if possible?
100%. No, have a go, bro.
I agree with everything you said. I think you hit the nail on the head there. And just to clarify, I'm not against Kolpaks coming back. I want them back. I want as many of them to come back as possible. What I said earlier was that I didn't think that they would all come back. I don't think all the names we want to come back will come back. That doesn't mean I don't want them there. I would love them there. I think a guy like Hamza, do you think he would have struggled? Do you think Hamza would have struggled with a short ball if he was facing Morne Morkel, Duane Olivier, and Carl Abbott at a domestic level? Who could test in the same way Stuart Broad did on our local scene?
But before you're a test player, you need to play first class cricket, and we all agree on that.
Yes.
And the amount of runs or wickets picked up in first class cricket warrants your selection for the national side.
100%.
And so from a Hamza's point of view, that he's facing the quality of bowlers that we have in our domestic structures is not his problem. That's not his fault.
Sure,
That our batters are facing that our bowlers aren't being tested by the batters, and you get teams being bowled out for 200, 180 in first class cricket. That's not the Indaba. It's an effort that needs to be taken into consideration by Cricket South Africa, and increasing the number of teams. For me, yes, it means they'll need to dig deep into their coffers, but it means for me, I get to see 2 more fast bowlers who are going to open the bowling for that franchise, 2 more opening batters for that side, 2 more all-rounders, and 2 more wicket keepers that we have in the pool, so that they all get to play against each other and really get the crux and the best that we have in the country, so that we don't have a situation where we're scratching around, we're looking for all-rounders, still begging to find an all-rounder, which is a situation South Africa has at the moment. We've got a situation of all-rounders, and we've got an all-rounder here joining us now. He'll be the one he'll be the first to acknowledge that Our all-rounders aren't all-rounders that are, changing the game like Ben Stokes, changing the game like Mitchell Johnson. How are the captains using our all-rounders in domestic cricket? So, et cetera, and we'll probably drift away from the initial topic, but it's et cetera, that is quite valid. It starts from how do the players view the extension of the teams? Do the players want there to be an extension of teams? Do the players want that? Are they buying into that? So that everybody understands that what we want at the end of the day is as many players playing cricket in South Africa so that we can get the best 11.
100%, Six. I agree with you 100%. But guys, you guys talk about extension. Eventually, sabanendlu enkulu kakhulu. What I want to understand, who are these two teams that you guys would like to be added onto the system?
Well, for me, Phila, I'm sorry to jump in there because I bleed and I cry every single day looking at the situation in both the sporting codes, rugby and cricket in border. And I think what happened between St. George's and Buffalo Park really then starved cricket in East London. Same thing that happened with the Border Bulldogs and EP, and then essentially having Southern Kings. It meant East London starved in terms of rugby, and you'd get rugby now and then, you'd get cricket now and then. So the Warriors can't expect Buffalo Park to sell out when they only play 3 games a season then, People want to know that the Warriors are here. The Warriors are here at Buffalo Park and nowhere else. And so for starters, I would love to see a team based in East London. Yes, we've got the Border Bulldogs. The Border Bears. The Border Bears. We've got the Border Bears. Can you please pay attention to the Border Bears? Because I still believe there's still, and not just Black African cricket, I still believe there's a lot of cricket talent that isn't being noticed down in the Eastern Cape.
I agree. I'm a massive Border fan. I'd love to see Border, back. But do you agree? I went to Rhodes. So I've got to.
There it is.
But I mean, if you look on paper, if I'm not mistaken, I think Border were probably one of the weaker semi-professional sides.
Yes.
Season. So exactly. So what a semi-professional, what a franchise side needs is 3 things. It needs schools supporting it, and it needs clubs supporting it, and it needs university supporting it. If you have good schools, good clubs, and a good varsity side, you're going to have a decent franchise or semi-professional side.
Yeah, but I can.
East London doesn't necessarily have that. So in my case, I'd love to see Border personally, but I think on paper, there's more of a case for a second side from the Western Cape. You've got the Cobras, and below the Cobras you've got Western Province, and you've got Wala.
SWD.
Yeah, and SWD actually.
Well, Dan, just on there, you look at the Coke Week, you look at the SA under 19 side. And you look at the number, you look just the past 5 to 6 years. Look how many players, and again, not Black African players, how many players are from the border region who have made the SAA side, who have made the SA under 19 side, and SA under 19 Colts side, from the border. And then you wonder, why isn't Tandondini bowling at Buffalo Park like his father? Why is Akwana Mnyaka not bowling at Buffalo Park like he had dreamt growing up, so that his friends in the township can catch a taxi and come watch him bowl at Buffalo Park, etc., etc.
Yeah. Because I can tell you my experience when I was still in high school, when there was still that Super Sport 4-day series. I think when Omak Boucher were opening the batting for Border at that time. We would take a taxi from Beacon Bay all the way to Buffalo Park and go watch the Ndinis and go watch the Bouchers opening batting for Boucher. Those were the times where Nolanduka Waepaman, what's his name? I think he was assistant coach now. Makalima, yes. He was also there. Those were the times. We didn't have a university. We still don't even have.
That was my last point.
Proper structured university in the in border region, but we still produced top quality cricket players.
And let's not undermine the great work, the fantastic job done by Fort Hare University, working alongside Mfuneko Ngam under conditions that, not a lot of franchise cricketers would play in. You know, mentally, it challenges you as a player. But the amount of work that he's done for Nepal and Fort Hare in that region to try and keep cricket alive and hope, a beacon of hope for black players around those villages is instrumental. And you can't deny the fact that varsity in all sporting codes plays a huge factor. I mean, you look at rugby, how the Lions will always benefit from just the two universities in Johannesburg, Wits and UJ. But you go down to the Eastern Cape, how big is cricket at Rhodes? How big is cricket at Walter Sisulu University? How big is cricket, UPE, etc., etc.? Because that's where the franchises still rely heavily in terms of players and club cricket.
Six. What do you think of the school cricket in the Eastern Cape? in the Eastern Cape, do you think like the likes of who are the big schools there, Queens, Dale, you know those? I'm assuming
you left the door open, Dan.
Whoa,
Dan,
what?
Dan, you left the door open.
Big schools. Whoa, wait, Dan, big schools.
Look, Dan. It's
have they? Sorry, before you answer, have they kept up with the Menlo Parks, the Arthies, the Centurions, the Paul Boys High, those kind of schools? Have the Eastern Cape schools as a whole kept up with those? Are they competitive?
Have those schools kept up? Because the attitude of the game is changing now because of T20 cricket. That's what youngsters are thinking when they're coming out of school. You're thinking T20 cricket.
T20.
And if you look at which is a problem, perhaps we might chat another day, which is a problem resulting in our test side performing so poorly. But if you look at the T20 schools T20 challenge, and you look at the sides that are featured in the Cricket South Africa schools T20 challenge, it's mostly schools from your border and your Gauteng region. And to answer your question, traditionally, Dale College, Selborne College, Queen's College dominated the border region in terms of cricket. Going back to the early 90s, and no co-ed school would even dream of surviving a Saturday game against those sides. But things changed at the turn of the millennium, and schools realized that we can't just focus on rugby or hold on to that one sport.
He's about to bring up Hudson.
Here we go.
Let's expand.
Here we go.
He left the door open.
Say it already.
He left the door open.
I was waiting for that.
What it meant was, sorry, no. It needed a change, a structural change. It needed some of the co-ed sides to step up and keep up. And Hudson Park was one of those teams. I've got to mention them. Hudson Park.
Yeah.
They needed to step up. They needed to change. And for the first time, they went on and perhaps some other schools might look to employ this. They went on to find one of the finest Eastern Province players we've had in Kenny Watson. And what Kenny Watson would do, viewer, you'd know Kenny Watson a lot. And what Kenny Watson would do in the mornings, he would spend a lot of time with the primary school kids. During phys ed, you'd pull 1 or 2 or 3 players and you'd work with them in the nets during that phys ed. And then in the afternoons, you'd go across the road and work out and work with the first team and second team. In no time, Dan, 2005, 2006, our viewer would have played with some of the players I'm about to mention. One of them is his cousin, who just also hung up his boots for Western Province. Umpilo Njoloza was in that side. Ayaburela Kamani was in that side. Shannon Masto and the likes who were in that side. Tebo Chiki. These are guys who've got national colors. And so what it meant now there's a co-ed who's been a nuisance amongst the colleges in East London. And in the Wednesday league of the T20 Algae Cup, Hudson Park was dominating. They were dominating, they were winning it convincingly, which then meant it translated to the Saturday league competition. And there, Hudson Park excelled. It meant then the border side was now shifting from having your Melbourne, Dale and Queens. It included your co-ed schools. And in essence, over the decade, it changed realistically, because what we saw Sterling as well, having a couple of cricketers, Cambridge with a couple of cricketers, schools unheard of.
Take it easy.
To the point where, Dan, you will struggle finding a single Dalian or a Selbornian in the current border cricket side. So that's what has changed in East London, and it's changed for the good. And I hope it goes on for a very long time.
I think we have to hold it. I think we have to hold it right there. I think we have to end that particular segment right there, gentlemen. I want to move into another feisty, hectic topic. This one has been doing its rounds since the guy decided to hang up his boots. AB de Villiers. Some people want him back. Mark Boucher has spoken about having him back into the setup. I don't know. How do you guys feel about having a 36-year-old coming back into the Proteas setup? Dan, I'm going to start off with you, and then AV, you can jump in here.
Yeah, look, this is a rough one. Not a sensitive topic, but it's good. It makes some good content. My opinion is you want your best players playing for you at the World Cup, right? The second question is, on paper, does AB de Villiers make South Africa's best Pro 20 team?
On paper, yes, he does.
Definitely.
But
go look at go look at his T20 numbers. They'll shock you. They're very, 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 very average. They're very average T20 numbers. I mean, why aren't we talking about calling JP Dubiny out of retirement? Flip. Like I'd love to have that oak. I'd love to have that oak at the World Cup. He's one of the best T20 batsmen we've had. Nobody talks about that.
Yeah.
But in short, would I want AB de Villiers at the T20 World Cup, which probably won't happen this year? Yeah, I would.
All right, AV.
Sorry guys, I was just charging my phone.
It's no worries. For me, it's got a tough one. As Dan said, JP has probably been our best T20 player in South Africa of all time. But if you look at AB, the player, what he's done in all domestic leagues he's played in, we definitely need him. I think he could make a big difference. But for me, him going into retirement, and now it seems like CSA is kind of desperate to win a World Cup so much that they, like even the talk of him coming back last year for the 2019 Cricket World Cup, that's insane for someone to dump you. And then all of a sudden now you want him to come back.
Once love back.
Yeah, you fully love back just because you feel he's the best chance of you winning a World Cup. I think I would love to have him playing, to be honest, but I don't know morally if it's the right thing to do. And I don't know him well enough as a person for his reasons to want to come back. But I would love to see him playing because I think it would improve our side.
Six, I mean, our dismal performance last year in 2019 at the World Cup, does it warrant an AB de Villiers to come back?
He was there in 2015, wasn't he? He was there for all those
we
other
were knocked out. We were knocked out. Come on. He was there, we were knocked out.
He was there in other
2011, he was there, we were knocked out.
That AB featured in. And the biggest issue that, I've always looked into, and when I look at, when they talk about the great, who's the greatest? What have been your contributions when it matters? What have been your contributions at World Cups, ICC events? And sadly, there's nothing to write home about in terms of South Africa and silverware at World Cups. But from his player's point of view, AB de Villiers would walk in still in any side with his capabilities alone. Form, that would be the question.
No.
Form, the issue.
Has he? Okay. No. He's not walking into anything. He's walking into a wall. That's what he's walking into.
I said, based on his capabilities, he walks into any side. But form, what form is he in, AB de Villiers? And we had this conversation in commentary, and my biggest point was, why aren't they playing him now? Why didn't you play in the T20s against England? Why didn't you play in the T20s against Australia? So that you keep a balance in the side. You start building a middle order. You start building your top order. Familiarity is very important in the side. And with 5 games and 3 of those games now in limbo because of COVID, there's not much left until that World Cup. So if they are able to get the services of AB de Villiers, great on Mark Boucher and Graham Smith, and hopefully it bodes well for them. But for me personally, I wouldn't.
What are your thoughts, Phila?
Fair. No, because the thing is, I'm concerned here about the fact that if my senior coach, current coach, Mark Boucher, is talking about bringing someone who retired and decided to leave us hanging, wants to bring him in. Now, the current setup, we've already got a T20 team, right? Without an AB de Villiers. Now, what uncertainty does that bring into my current T20 side? If I'm talking about bringing AB, someone has to be dropped at the end of the day, right? Yes. Someone has to be dropped. Who do we sacrifice for AB de Villiers?
What you can clearly see now almost happening in that T20 side is that Themba Bavuma is now becoming that Hashim Amla. So you look at your top three. Your top three will need to feature Themba Bavuma. And if he's going to play, he has to play in your top three. Okay. Ideally, opening for me with Quinton de Kock, because you need Quinton de Kock to face as many balls as possible.
Yeah.
But if you looked at the T20 series that we've just completed now, thereafter, there wasn't a lot of, fire. There wasn't a lot of impetus. There wasn't a lot of AB kind of innings. And therein lies an opportunity for me, who I still believe still has a lot to offer for T20 sides. Heinrich Klaassen.
Yeah. There we go.
You've got to find a way for Heinrich Klaassen, because he's someone I believe who's very powerful, can hit a ball very long way. But going back to the AB de Villiers point, Buenapila, his form, for me, in recent times, doesn't suggest that he should be playing international cricket, in particular at the World Cup. And he shouldn't just be called in at the last hour, final hour, to come feature at a World Cup. You would have needed to really impress me in terms of form. Even in the Mzansi Super League, the first one, he didn't do so particularly well. In the second one, you almost sensed an AB de Villiers who wanted to come back, who wanted to perform and, remind the selectors that maybe, just maybe.
I'm here, guys. All right, gentlemen, I want to move into the whole captaincy issue now. Who is our next test captain? I mean, we know Quinton de Kock has been selected for ODIs and T20s, but now for test cricket, who do we select as our test captain?
For me, I would go Dean Elgar, because he's been there for a long time. He's pretty much cemented his place in the side. And for a team that's rebuilding in a way, he's you kind of need a guy that's very experienced to lead the guys into this new era of South African cricket. If not him, I definitely think Quinton de Kock. I think it's a bit too soon for Aiden Markram at the moment. He's also kind of cemented his place, but he's still fresh and he hasn't played much first-class cricket either. So for me, I'd go Dean Elgar. He's been there. I think he's turning 34 this year, but he's still probably got another 4 years in him to play for the Proteas. That's enough time to...
No, he's 32.
He's wasn't he born 87? He's 33.
Unless there's lies.
He's 1 year
very
younger
generous, another 4 years.
I think
it'll have to be 4 years, guys. We can't choose someone and then dump him in the next 2 years. Surely not.
But in criticizing Dean Elgar, Aviwe, you look at his numbers, He's a guy who likes scoring early on in the series, scores 100, that, target 100 and almost just, wanders off. And I think if you're going to go captaincy, and particularly captaincy being your captain being your batting captain and opening captain, he's someone who's, and please make no mistake, I'm not saying that Dean Elgar hasn't played those meaningful long innings. I think he's, finished unscathed 3 times in Test cricket. But what I'm saying is he needs to have consistent contributions in the second innings because there's no greater message like we saw for 10, 12 years in Graeme Smith, when your captain is opening the batting, is your captain, second innings is going out there and is going to score you those runs. Again, I'm not saying he's not capable, Dean Elgar, but he needs to be consistent in that manner. And I've got to agree with you, Aviwe. You look around that setup, he's the only one for me who's learned, first of all, because you can't ignore the information that was laid out by Faf du Plessis all these years. He would have picked up on all those little things. Dean Elgar standing at slip, how you marshal your bowlers, when to bring them into the attack, when you can see momentum shift, when do you respond as a captain, etc. at the highest level of Test cricket. And so for Cricket South Africa, if they're looking to keep things sane, and I say sane because there's a lot happening in that side, they would need to go the Dean Alga route just to keep things, sort of, what's this word I'm looking for? Stable in the side for the next 2 or 3 seasons.
I think he's played under the last 4 captains. He played a bit under Graham Smith, didn't he? And Hashim and AB and Faf. He played a bit under Graham Smith.
Do we still count Hashim and AB? Come on, I mean, really.
No, but it's 6. So
Dan?
Yeah, look, I've always thought that the first criteria you should look at, when you're trying to choose your captain, is that his position in the side shouldn't be under question. Like nobody's place is ever cemented. You have to say that. It's out there, but got it out the way there. But if you look at the most recent side that played against England, how many Oaks actually fit that criteria? Obviously, the one that sticks out is Quinton de Kock, but we've already been told he's not going to be the Test captain. To go off on a bit of a tangent here, they mentioned that the workload would get to him.
Yeah,
because he's already the T20 captain. And do you not think it's worth prioritizing Test cricket? Like, give the T20 captaincy to someone else. Like. Why is the Test cricket captain? Oh no, sorry, you can't do that when you're already doing all of this. In my opinion, you should prioritize the Test cricket, but that's a whole different discussion.
Yeah.
The next Oak that comes to mind is obviously Dean Alga. Now, I agree, he does seem like the logical choice there, but the problem with Dean Alga is he's turning 33 this year, right? That's the same age that Graham Smith retired. I think Elvira Peterson retired 24.
Nice one, Dan. I love that.
I'm talking facts here.
But the difference there.
Test opening batsman. If you look at when these Oaks retired, Dean Alga is nearing that age. That's a fact.
But the difference there, Dan. The difference there is you've got a Graham Smith who came into the side at a very young age, at 22, 23. As opposed to a Dean Alga who came in at the back end of his career. So a fine example would be Peter Malan. You can't write Peter Malan out in terms of captaincy because he's just walked in. You can't ignore the experience that he's picked up in first-class cricket over the years and saying he can't be captain. So, yeah.
What I'm saying is it's you can't deny that Dean Alga is, in a sense, a short-term solution. What is technically, what is the longest he could captain South Africa for? Like somebody mentioned
3 or 4 years.
That's very kind.
Cricket South Africa were desperate.
3 to 4 years, surely.
They were desperate. Cricket South Africa, desperate. And I mean desperate for 2 players to come around. One of them is being Vian Mulder. A lot of attention and a lot of resources and a lot of hospital time for the young man. But Cricket South Africa were desperate in trying to make sure that he is the all-rounder going forward. And also Aiden Markram, they had probably looked at the plans and how things would almost just fold out in giving Aiden Markram a chance. He scores the runs, a couple of seasons.
That's been the plan. That's been the plan since.
But it hasn't happened like that.
Wait, gentlemen. Everyone is talking wicket keepers. Everyone is talking opening batsmen. Ukagiso Rabada is young enough. He's the same age when Graham Smith took over the Proteas. Why can't Ukagiso Rabada be on the list?
And there's many discipline issues.
No, don't worry about discipline. Don't worry about discipline issues.
You need to get out the detention room first.
Come on, lads.
No, I'm always of the belief, and there have been, good captains who are bowlers. I mean, recently I talk of Angela Matthews, Jason Holder as captains. Pollock wasn't too bad, etc. But I'm still good old-fashioned. If my opening bowlers can't be my captains, because opening bowler, I'm the captain. You pitch it up, you get driven through the covers, you move a player. Pitch it up again, you get driven through the covers, you move a player slightly to your left. So I feel as a fast bowler, you still need someone who's your head boy, to put an arm over your shoulder and say, look, pitch it up or pitch it short and try this, try that. because I feel fast bowlers like that. You know, they like that arm over the shoulder.
And where's Roberto when he's not bowling? You know, he's at the first
fine leg.
He's either bowling or he's at fine leg. You can't have your captain
far away from
standing at slip. You know, you can't finish your over, then go stand and slip and look to marshal the side. After he's over, you want him to go spend
put a fine leg and have his
Okay. Those are fair examples and explanations why a bowler cannot.
There's many.
So all three of you agree Din Elgar should be in the forefront, basically, and then second to that will be Quinton de Kock. Obviously, considering the amount, six. You don't want Quinton de Kock.
No.
So Aiden Markram is your second choice.
Well, currently, he'd need to make the team first, Aiden Markram. But if you look at the current team,
so Malan would you say Malan has taken over?
No. I would entrust Dean Elgar with the help of Themba Bavuma.
He hasn't come up. His name hasn't come up.
Bavuma's in the team.
But Bavuma is your consistent starter.
Yeah. More than in Malan.
I'm not even looking at Malan. Malan.
But I've got to give you a reason why I say Themba Bavuma.
Give me this reason.
I'm still of the old age where I don't want my opening fast bowlers as captains, and I don't want my wicketkeeper as a captain.
Okay.
Why? Because in teams that I've also, and it may be club or whatever, but I've always felt that when you've got your wicketkeeper, Mark Boucher, you've got your captain, Graham Smith, first slip, and you've got another experienced guy at second slip, Jacques Kallis, you almost have three captains in the side. You almost have three different points of views, three really robust guys who are going to give you honest opinions after each and every delivery.
Yeah.
And when you have the wicket keeper as your captain, the guy standing at first slip almost just stands there and just listens and will offer an opinion now and then. And it's one of those things you'll only feel having played the game, and it doesn't matter to what level, but you'll only understand those sort of dynamics once you've been part of that setup. That the captain, you almost want him to be the guy who's just batting and must get assistance from his wicket keeper, who's almost the guy who's a little pit bull in the side, runs around tirelessly throughout the day, and he'll offer a game-changing opinion now and then. And the experienced cool head at second slip of Jacques Kallis. It worked beautifully.
Yeah, fair.
Can you not argue that if Markram's place in the test side is under scrutiny, would you not say Bavuma's spot in the test side is equally under scrutiny?
That's what I asked him.
Both.
Right. Both of them.
And then you go back a couple of years ago, 3, 4, 5 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, New Year's Test match in Cape Town against England, 2016. And there were two guys, spots who were in limbo at the time, Faf du Plessis and JP Duminy. And there was only one spot available. And Cricket South Africa the selectors decided on Faf du Plessis, dropped JP Duminy. JP went to first class cricket, scored, I think, 100, if I'm not mistaken. And Faf du Plessis, his career went on to what it is today. There are sometimes in selection where it's not only the runs that put you in the side. And I hate to bring this up when it's about Themba, because he's clouded by transformation. And he's the first to come out and say that he hates it as well. But with the Themba Bavuma situation, it's always going to be about his innings, his meaningful innings, his contributions to the side. Because his hundreds tally don't warrant him selection in the side. His form doesn't warrant him selection in the side, but it's all conditions that always come up in conversation when it comes to Themba Bavuma. And for me, personally, and I look at that squad, technically, which for me is still the first ticket you need when it comes to Test cricket, technically, he's still very sound. He still has a lot to offer for that South African side. And I think an extended run, and out of this, you're in, you're out, half in, half out, and really being given a really good time to play your cricket, play your natural cricket. And we're seeing the best of Themba Bavuma now in white ball cricket.
All right, I think we'll end it off. We'll end off things where with what to six has just said. I mean, any closing comments from you, Aviwe and Dan?
No, not for me, guys. It was a great discussion. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Looking forward to chatting with you guys again about cricket and the state of cricket in our country. Which, exciting future ahead.
100%. Dan?
No more comments from me. Just thanks for having me. I'm glad, we're having these discussions. They're the discussions that need to take place. And hopefully this lockdown ends and we can see some test cricket soon.
Test cricket, yes.
6.
I think in passing for me, it's good to catch up with you, AV. Yes, it's good to have some downtime. You guys have lengthy seasons. You guys put in a lot in a single season. So do take this time to put up your feet and enjoy the time out. Enjoy the meals. Stay away from the gravy. But also, Dan, it's nice to meet you as well, buddy. Keep the conversations going. Keep the polls going. The more voices we have in cricket and in sport in general, the more we can have these discussions and trying to get our sporting codes to the best and, being the best in the world. So, Phila, thanks for having me. I know you're always happy to have me.
Enjoy washing those dishes.
That's enough said. Enjoy washing those damn dishes, mate. Thank you guys for joining me, man. I look forward to having more conversations with you guys during this COVID-19. And this episode was brought to you by MAT Consulting. Visit www.matconsulting.co.za. See you guys next week. Thank you, guys.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers.